4 Burmese rubies. How to choose between Mogok and Mong Hsu.
Famous for the most expensive rubies in the world and the traditional source of rubies in Burma, the historical source, still producing today in small amount, and an area called Mong Hsu. And so there was this new source of ruby, Mong Hsu, from Burma that dominated the ruby market in the 1990s with their production. I was in the trade at that time in the 1990s, and it was amazing to see all of this ruby. But are there differences between Mogok and Mong Hsu? Absolutely. Most of the Mong Hsu material is a high quality red color for commercial grade rubies. Almost all of the Mong Hsu rubies are heat treated. Even the fine color material that you're seeing in a fine even red color, this has been heat treated. And the reason for that is, even though Mogok and Mong Hsu, they're both from marble deposits, they both can have very strong fluorescence, that glow of red color from within the stone. But the Mong Hsu crystals usually, almost always, have a very strong purple to violet color core in the crystal. So there's this very strong purplish color, violetish color component that you can't cut out, but you can heat treat it and remove it or minimize. You have more of a pure red color, and it is a vivid, beautiful red color. Also, there was a big controversy with the Mong Hsu rubies after they'd been out a while in the 1990s. Some of the Japanese labs were saying these rubies are glass filled. They were not glass filled. What became evident is that a lot of the Mong Hsu ruby production, almost all of it is heat treated to affect the color, but the crystals also had a lot of fractures in them. So they would take the temperatures to higher levels. They might be able to affect the color anywhere from 1200 to say 1400 degrees centigrade, but they would take them to higher temperatures, 1700 degrees centigrade, maybe above, in the presence of a flux, usually borax, a catalyst. Now, what would this do? In these fractures, that would stimulate the growth of new ruby in the fractures. But what were the labs and the dealers seeing at this time? They were seeing some of that flux trapped as residue in the fracture with this new growth of ruby. In fact, it looked like some synthetic rubies. It looked like some of the inclusions you might see in flux-grown synthetic rubies. And occasionally, at the surface of the fractures, there might be a glassy appearance, where that residue turned a glassy appearance, and they forgot to clean that out maybe with acid. So there was very confusing appearances. Residue designations from lab, along with the thermal enhancement, they sell same size and quality for less money than just a thermal enhanced ruby. But it is not a filling, and it is a permanent enhancement in most cases, like heat treatment is. So Mong Hsu rubies, most of them are treated, and it is a totally different market than the Mogok rubies, especially the untreated Mogok rubies. Especially if they have a fine color, they sell at a strong premium in the market for being Burmese. They're very different in appearance. You know, the Mogok stones, they often have what they call nests, like a bird nest, of these needle-like inclusions called silk, because it looks like silk. And in the Mogok rubies, you'll see various mineral inclusions, especially what we call carbonate inclusions, calcite and dolomite. Generally, you don't see those type of mineral inclusions in Mong Hsu rubies. If you want a ruby and you want a wow red color, Mong Hsu, the heat treated even with residue, that is a very price-effective alternative to Mogok rubies. But if you want the premier ruby, the untreated rubies with the top colors, that would be the Mogok market. And that's why at Guild Laboratory, when we issue a Burmese ruby report, we can tell you if it came from Mogok or it came from Mong Hsu.